family traveled to Scotland with the goal of completing an almost 200-mile hike and sightseeing along the way. To venture to Scotland in the first place, we had to go through Phoenix, then London, then finally Glasgow. In total, it was over 12 hours of sitting in an extremely small seat that seemed to get smaller as the flight went on. The monotonous roaring of the plane's engines was always in the background. More than once I finished a movie and then realized there were many hours left. Exhausted from the airplane, we collapsed into our warm, fluffy hotel beds at the Holiday Inn Express. In the morning, we ate a hotel continental breakfast that I compared to the best homemade breakfast ever, as I was ravenous. Here, I was introduced to Weetabix. Admittedly, it is fabulous, by far the best cereal I have ever had. It comes in compressed wheat bricks, and you just add some milk and sugar. It has the same texture of oatmeal and cereal combined. After breakfast, we made our way over to the trail, but first, we visited the Glasgow Cathedral, parts of which were built in the 1200s, maybe earlier. I found it fascinating that maybe some of these cavernous ceilings and enormous pillars were built so early. Furthermore, it is in the center of Glasgow and has changed a lot over time, surviving the Reformation. St. Mungo was buried in the 1600s at the cathedral's site. St. Mungo was the first known bishop of modern Strathclyde, a region in Scotland. The Glasgow necropolis was next on our list, being right next door. The necropolis was formed by the Merchants' House of Glasgow in 1831. Never-ending gravestones went on and on. There were over 50,000 burials and around 3,500 tombs. Left to walk the 12 miles to the start of the trail, plodding along the hard concrete sidewalks and bike trails. We ended up staying at the Premier Inn, a British hotel chain. We started hiking on the actual trail today. Everyone had doubts when we started. Would we finish? Will we make it that long? Would we enjoy it, or would it become a horrible mess as the trip progressed? First trail, the West Highland Way, was around 100 miles long, and the second about 70. Our first day turned out to be fairly uneventful. We hiked past a lot of sheep and large bright green fields with long grass. Together, we contemplated why there were so many sheep and if they were the real rulers of the world. My dad's countless stories on this topic passed the time while we were hiking. At 8 o'clock, we ended our day in Drymen at a bed and breakfast called Kip in the Kirk by swiftly falling asleep in our beds, feet hurting and exhausted from the day of hiking.
We have a concept in this family, it's called bagging. Bagging is when you take down two hikers up ahead, and one or two. And when you're doing the bagging, it's called bagging, and the people are known as baggables.
There is an art to it, my dad continues. You have to know what you're doing when you pass them. Speeding up as you pass doesn't hurt. As we go along, we continue to see some hikers up ahead. Will we be able to catch them? Or are they too brisk and agile for us to conquer and bag? Picking up the pace, we realize with horror that we, the hunters, have become the baggables. Two hikers come around the bend behind us. They appear so suddenly that they could have apparated. Will we be caught, or will we continue victorious? As we speed up, we just barely manage to stay in front. Later, we come across a hill. A rather large one, in fact. Large might not cut it, as I am classifying it as a hill, not a mountain. Maybe massive hill makes more sense. Everything seems bigger when you have a massive backpack on. After many hours that was really only 30 minutes, we managed to make it to the top, managing not to have any hiccups other than not agreeing which conic hill to have lunch on, the tallest or the quietest. The next few days blended together as we hiked through tundra and mossy forest. The rolling hills seemed to go on forever. You could, at some point, see the trail stretching out before you like a snake wrapping around the hills and through passes. There were many points where a massive spindly power line was paralleling the trail. Food started to become a problem, as most places we stayed at did not have a grocery store nearby.
We seem to be running out. There's only Gorp and what is it? Gorp and something else. Gorp and tortillas left.
That did not end up becoming a problem though, because we bought lunch soon at a hotel that had a restaurant. I cannot tell you how good that cheese and ham sandwich tasted. On the 24th, we saw something ahead of us on the trail. What is it, we asked? As we continued forward, we realized it was a wooden box with a lid. This mysterious wooden box is a very special wooden box, an honesty box. An honesty box holds food that you can pay for in another, smaller metal box by leaving your payment and going on your way. Well, I was very pleased to see this box, because I happened to be very hungry. I had a Mars bar, which is kind of like a Milky Way in the United States, but way creamier. There was a surprising amount of tunnels. Well, if you can call 2 tunnels a surprising amount. I found it funny that one tunnel had bubble wrap around the entrance, so you would not hit your head on the very low clearance. It was basically a dark, round hobbit tunnel. The next few days passed much the same. One night, we slept on a train platform that had been converted into a hostel. All night, we heard the rumble of trains going by. Our trip was very eventful, and this was only a tiny portion of our exploration through Scotland, as we completed 2 long hikes and saw many other things. Some of my favorites were the grand, awe-inspiring castles, lonely beaches stretching along the sides of the islands and the outer islands, and canal operations on the Caledonian Canal.